Hey everyone, and welcome to another episode of This Week in Crypto Philanthropy, where we highlight the top giving news, stories, and the power of crypto for good. Again, Nick Mikhalevsky here from the Giving Block, and joined by my colleague Pietro Moran, Director of Crypto at Shift4. Pietro, how's it going?
It's going great. Theme of the pod today: permission to be bullish. Feeling
Yeah.
very positive this week. I'm also, selfishly, I'm back home finally off the road. It was great to see everybody, but we'll get into it later. Ton of enthusiasm, some great updates, and yeah, oh man, I think we might be back.
I think so. Well, let's look over at the agenda today. We'll do the price check, a lot of things to talk about there, run through some donation stats over the last 14 days. We've had some people on the podcast and haven't really done a download. So I want to take a look at the last couple weeks just to get everybody kind of caught up on what's been going on. Do a quick update on the hurricane relief and the new gift match that we launched if you haven't seen it on socials. And then, of course, we'll round out with some crypto news. So, moving on to the next slide, again, as a reminder, as we always do, we're still doing our $500 in Bitcoin when you get started with the Giving Block. So, again, scan that QR code if you want to get started with us. Great little way to jumpstart the fundraising journey in crypto with our team. And with that, Pietro, the markets, man, they're absolutely ripping.
Scorching hot. That is the the title of this price update. But yeah, I mean, I think you hit the nail on the head. There, things are really active. I mean, we're looking at what could be potentially a run at all time highs. I don't want to hold my breath and or give undue enthusiasm. But at all that said, Bitcoin just flirting with that $68,000 level. Ethereum's making a little bit of a comeback. 2,600. And we're seeing a lot of the altcoin market, which we don't really talk about too much on this show because it would be, I think, getting a little too far into the weeds. But you're seeing a lot of coins across the ecosystem have like a broad-based rally. And talking to folks and kind of doing my own research and homework on the space is like I'm seeing a lot of enthusiasm around just positive crypto uptick in traditional legacy media and in traditional legacy investment platforms. This week we saw a almost record day of trading in the Bitcoin ETF, billions of dollars of daily volume. And then we're also talking about, just some of the things around the election, people maybe feeling a little less uncertain. Doesn't matter which party wins. It's kind of like, okay, we're kind of towards the end of the frantic piece of things. And, one of my good friends said a great quote, and I took this back. It's like markets just hate uncertainty. It feels like the amount of certainty we're seeing, across all of the assets in crypto is just showing that people are feeling, much more confident now than they were, say, 2, 3, 4 months ago. And that's bearing out in the price. I'm super excited to see where we go from here.
Yeah, it's been really interesting to see the setup as we get towards the election. We're a few weeks out, and like you said, the ETFs. I mean, the inflows that we're seeing in there. I mean, for what we've seen gone in over the past few weeks, for a number of ETFs, that's sort of like what they might expect in an entire year. So the enthusiasm really coming back. I don't know if it's necessarily all degen retail. There's got to be some institutional enthusiasm baked into that as well. So yeah, really interesting setup here as we get get tuned up for year end giving, and it's certainly starting to bear out in some of the numbers that we're seeing. So I
For
guess
sure.
you
One
know uh,
quick note: the
yeah.
Larry Fink, head of BlackRock, tipping the cap towards Ethereum on their investor call, saying it's going to have a lot more of a you know place to play in the broader crypto ecosystem. I think a lot of folks who've stayed on top of crypto prices have noticed ETH has not performed, say, as well as Bitcoin. Early parts of the cycle, if we talk about the traditional crypto cycles every couple of years, Bitcoin tends to lead. So maybe Larry's done his homework, which I'm sure he has, and he's seeing that we're starting to see a bit more of those inflows start to trickle into other assets outside of Bitcoin.
Yeah, I think we're seeing some other organizations also coming out with other ETF offerings across other assets as well. So yeah, it's going to be really interesting to watch over the next couple quarters as these new filings come out. And I think even Grayscale put in a petition to do a conversion of their multi-asset fund into an ETF as well.
Hmm.
So yeah, lots of things playing out in the market. And as from the donation side of things, um, the response that we've seen on the donor side, and to sort of shift gears to sort of the hurricane relief efforts. Here we are coming off of the this last week of support, and it was really great. Our CEO Jared Isaacman stepping up to offer a 1-to-1 match, so the next $500,000 of donations to support relief efforts for Hurricane Helene and Milton now matched. That's up to $1 million, which is phenomenal. And just as a reminder, donations into these relief funds and our impact index funds are split equally across all the nonprofits in that category. And a couple other data points there. If you are accepting through the Giving Block, or if you're not, we'll put some helpful links in the show notes if you'd like to get involved. But it's been absolutely phenomenal to see, and the crypto communities really stepped up, as they always do in times like this. And I wanted to take a minute to shout out Southern Pause. They've done a fantastic job getting activated and getting the word out and attracting support from donors. And one of the Web3 communities that we I say work with, but we know in the space, made a phenomenal donation of $10,000 to the fund that's going to be matched. So that's doubled. So that's $20,000. And again, stuff like this that really like brings donors into um, you know the the community here to either support an individual org or these impact index funds or these emergency relief funds. So it's been absolutely awesome to see. Again, we'll drop links in the show notes if anybody wants to make some donations to those funds. And then, of course, if you're a fundraiser, you're a nonprofit, you want to get involved, again, we'll add some helpful links in order to do that. But yeah, it's been Pietro. It's been absolutely phenomenal to see. It's and man, hats off to your boss, right, Jared, for stepping up with this great donation.
I mean, I love to see stories like this, right? Because I think it humanizes what we do, right? We work in technology, we work in fintech, we work in, sometimes like the bleeding edge of what's going on, and it's like, computer space. But when a hurricane hits, like we're all human beings, we're all boots on the ground trying to help each other. And I agree. I love seeing the crypto community step up and do these types of activations and try to make a concerted effort to say, hey, we're gonna step back from maybe our identity as strictly a crypto company and all the fun that happens on Twitter there. And we're going to actually, you know, roll up our sleeves and get into the giving back and helping out sort of phase. I love that. And I mean, to dovetail kind of with what we were talking about around crypto prices, right? And, this isn't meant to be like a discussion about prices, but at the end of the day, what's really cool to see is like when these other asset prices and altcoins and things like that do perform well, right? It does give that extra boost to those communities to maybe have a little extra that they can put aside towards a charitable activation. And so, we're always cheering on, not just one coin, but all coins in that sense that wherever people are conducting transactions, right? Whenever those things perform well and they have a tax advantage opportunity to give, it's amazing to see stuff like this happen. And, you know, I'm super heartened to see these types of updates. This is great.
Yeah, and really kind of carries on to what we've seen play out over the last couple weeks. So taking a look at some of the stats, and kind of kept it pretty high level, but over the past 14 days, some really strong numbers. I mean, over $2 million in just crypto donations alone. And for everybody, as a quick reminder, we obviously can do things across card, stocks, donor advised funds. So this is just the crypto piece, and over 500 transactions in those last 14 days, about half of them in Bitcoin. Again, we always talk about Bitcoin kind of leading the way this year, and being the place where people have a lot of that extra, those extra funds to contribute to charitable causes. But a couple other points that wanted to mention. I mean, our religious institutions saw almost $1 million in donations across all of those assets. And one of the things I think is really interesting, and some of the churches in our ecosystem have done a really great job of going out to, their network, and it's a much more, say, like, limited network than maybe some of our other organizations that kind of appeal to, people across the board, whether you're if you're a conservation group or an animal group or whatever it might be, have sort of a larger donor pool to potentially appeal to. But some of these religious institutions have a defined donor base, right? These are people in a parish, in a small community, and some of these donations coming from a really small communities. So again, what I always mention to organizations who are crypto curious is that you'll never, you may, it may be really surprising how much crypto donors are in your network. You just have to ask, or donors just have to be made aware that it's even an option, because it still is relatively new on the donor side as well. It's not something that's instantly recognizable, and some of these organizations are doing a phenomenal job uncovering all new areas of impact. And it's great to see, even some of these smaller donor communities stepping up. And then lastly, across those impact index funds, kind of going back to what Southern Paws, was doing, food and water, disaster and conflict, and economic development are a few of the impact index funds that we have here on the Giving Block, and they've all received roughly 130,000 in each one of those funds over the last couple weeks. So again, those are split equally across all the nonprofits in that category. So what I'll say is, as the crypto community really activates, not just for year end and not just because, crypto prices are up, which always helps everybody be just that much more generous, but during these times of, upheaval, the crypto community is really stepping up, and these funds are a great way to, get the word out and encourage more people to give. And one thing I'd also kind of end with is, for those organizations out there that are, trying to reach new donors, just trying to, continue to beat that drum with, with crypto philanthropy, make sure you tag our team at the Giving Block. Nothing, makes us happier than boosting those messages, making sure it gets out to as many eyes as possible, because certainly if things are happening in crypto philanthropy, they're likely transiting, the Giving Block rails. So we would love to just make sure that we can help get as many eyes to a fund, a cause, a campaign, an organization. So it's been really phenomenal to see what's taken place over the last 2 weeks.
Couldn't agree more. That's an incredible update. I mean, it's also always one of those things that you have to keep in mind. Like, we are as responsive as we can be when it comes to natural disasters and disaster relief response. So I give a huge tip of the cap to all the colleagues at the Giving Block for turning that around and making sure that advocacy was out there, because these are time sensitive donations and relief efforts. So I mean, incredible stuff. Super super inspired by the efforts in the past couple of weeks, especially from our team, and then all the folks out there contributing and helping out on social media, making sure people know what's going on. And it's great. Hard to pivot into a crypto news update after that, because I think that's definitely the star of the show. But a couple things were really exciting here. Would love to get some of your opinions on this too, Nick. But first highlight I had for us here is A16Z, which is Andreessen Horowitz, for anybody familiar, a big venture fund, was conducting a survey that said that crypto usage is way up. And there's a lot of metrics that you can look at to justify or quantify what that might mean. But effectively, they had mentioned that in the month of September, over 220 million unique crypto addresses were interacting with the blockchain at least once during the month. And so when you think about the scope and scale of what crypto is, for folks who maybe are new, or they're like, well, how many people are really here? Is this too niche for me? Like, 220 million monthly active users of a technology suite, or broad industry, is pretty impressive, right? That's almost the population of the United States if every single person was conducting a crypto transaction every year. Obviously, this is a global phenomenon, but I think the point stands, and it's really interesting to see. And I think the theme since inception of this show has really been bridging the gap between the traditional world, the philanthropic world, and the crypto world, right? And so those three things, you could see that convergence where people are starting to dabble into crypto and get more active, and that's borne out in the data through this. So I mean, if you have a chance, want to take a look at the study, it's in the show notes. It's a really cool read. And, it's very encouraging to see that activity pick back up because, as we all know, with crypto, it's been very cyclical. It ebbs and flows. People come, maybe they conduct some business in crypto, and then like they kind of cool off or maybe pull back a little. It seems like we're still in that sort of strong momentum phase of things, which is really great. And then the second one here, and I think this is something I'd love to hear your take on, Nick, is like we are recognizing that Bitcoin miners, and this is going to be a little bit off the beaten path, but bear with me here. So Bitcoin mining companies that are listed here in the United States, which means they're on the United States stock exchanges, whether it's you know Nasdaq, S&P 500, and or any others, are compromising about 30% of all the Bitcoin hash rate. And so, to put that in as simple terms as possible, it just means that folks that are effectively like building and contributing to the Bitcoin ecosystem, 30% of those are US publicly listed companies. That's really interesting to me. And it kind of ties into the broader theme, which is that US companies in particular are gaining a lot more share in relevance in the crypto space. And again, part of that discussion around like we have more confidence in the US. We have confidence in US capital markets and US builders. And I think it's really cool that we're kind of playing a little bit of catch up because I think the past couple of years, folks have been more interested in other geographies for starting their business or moving their headcount or their startup into another country. And I think the final point on this, and then I really want to hear from you, Nick, is like this is also not like tokens like Bitcoin or Ethereum or Solana. Like these are equities that you could buy in your traditional brokerage at Fidelity or wherever you might do business. And I think it just broadens the scope of like the total investable market for folks that are interested or curious about crypto. And I think institutions are picking up on that. But Nick, what are your thoughts there?
Yeah, I mean, to take it, I guess maybe a level up. I could be wrong, but I think it was a BlackRock presentation recently that talked about when you incorporate, crypto into a traditional financial portfolio, how that tends to perform.
Mm-hmm.
And there were some really compelling statistics that came out of it. Whether it's, what does it do to the volatility, what does it do to the return, what does it do to the Sharpe ratio? I mean, these are some technical terms here, but in any way, it was, how it's lowering the risk profile and increasing the returns. All to say that it's financial advisors, wealth managers. Not only are they competing for this new client that has digital assets or clients who are asking for exposure into these digital assets, it's really interesting to see how investing in these types of proxies or the underlying asset is becoming really, really attractive. And I guess I'd say maybe to kind of jump in is like one, calling kind of like an audible here for maybe another link that we add to the show notes. Charles Schwab just released a survey that surveyed their ETF investors. And for everybody who isn't aware, I mean, Charles Schwab has got a $9 trillion assets under management.
Mm-hmm.
They took a look at, what these investors plan to invest into. And for millennials and Gen Z, crypto, I think really for millennials, crypto is number one. And
Mm-hmm.
for all other investors, 45% plan to look into crypto. So for folks that are out there that are thinking kind of downstream, I mean, these are considerations that are in your supporters' minds over the coming weeks and months. And, combined with this bull run that we're going into, I mean, expect to hear about crypto more and more. And from a philanthropic standpoint, expect that to be in part of those conversations. And if they're not, we can absolutely equip your team to do that. But yeah, it's the continuing blend of the traditional and crypto space. Yeah.
I mean, it's really fun because you kind of went where I was going, which is, I guess, a showcase that we have good chemistry here, or building that chemistry, right? Like, I threw out the boomerang with a little comment about Bitcoin miners, and now it's going to come back to philanthropy. The one thing I would say to bookend the show is really that for philanthropy and fundraising professionals looking at the crypto ecosystem, right? I mean, the Giving Block, and maybe I'm speaking for you here a little bit, Nick, but we're really good about talking about tokens. And I think that's been the primary way in which a lot of people have donated. But now that we're seeing a lot more of the, investing public start participating in these public equities, stocks that are related to crypto, it's another lever to pull when you talk about things like stock donation or somebody putting money into a DAF or anything like that. Because it's not just that you can invest in Bitcoin and other like on chain tokens. You can get, like you said, that proxy exposure to the crypto industry by investing in some of these public mining companies, some of these other folks that are building startups and going public. That I think is really interesting because even though it's not a crypto donation per se, it kind of is the crypto appreciation that's giving that person the opportunity to maybe make that gift. So all I'm saying is it's really cool to see that we're not a very siloed industry anymore. We're like kind of in the big leagues now, and it feels like I'm excited. I guess that's all I'll say. I'm trying to marshal my expectations so that we don't get over the skis too early, but it's looking to be a very strong end of the year.
Yeah, I think so. And if you're a nonprofit fundraiser, that wants to get in touch with us, again, we'll put a link to do that. And for those of you who already do work with the Giving Block, as a reminder, check out the year-end fundraising toolkit. I was actually in our template vault this afternoon. It's fantastic. So whether you're doing things across email, across social, direct mail, shout out to the Navy Marine Corps Relief Society. I got my hard copy mailer from them just this past week. They had a mention about crypto donations, hovered over the QR code, got right to the page. I actually did a quick post about it. So shout out to that team. It's fantastic to see and something that you're only going to see more of. But for someone like myself, man, that makes it so easy to just make a few clicks and send some generosity their way, which I plan to do. So yeah, shaping up to be a great year-end giving season. So make sure you've got our toolkits. They'll only make your job that much easier as we head into the year-end giving season and hopefully capturing some of the gains from the crypto community. But with that, yeah, lots of things that are happening on the traditional front, the Web3 communities. And if you're an organization that has a great story, we'd love to hear from you. We'd love to potentially highlight the kinds of work that you're doing. So we'll put some links in the show notes to reach out to us directly, and love to potentially have someone on for a future episode on This Week in Crypto Philanthropy. So with that, Pietro, I'll give you the final word.
Love it. I'm glad to be back in the routine of things. It's been great to have the week that we've had, but incremental steps. We're super stoked for the end of the year, and we're here at the Giving Block and Shift 4 to support however you need. So reach out to us, send us your comments, questions, and we'll see you in the next one.